Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Sharon Bown, and joining us this evening from the Royal Australian Air Force is Wing Commander Linda New. Today's Last Post ceremony honours women who are united by defence. In particular, we honour the broad scope of service, sacrifice and contribution of current and ex-serving women in the Australian Defence Force and women and their families whose lives have been affected as a result of service. This evening we are honoured to acknowledge His Excellency General the Honourable David Hurley, Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, and Her Excellency Mrs Linda Hurley. Senator the Honourable Linda Reynolds, Minister for Defence, representing the Prime Minister of Australia. The Honourable Shane Newman, Shadow Minister for the Veterans Affairs and Defence Personnel, representing the Leader of the Opposition. Mrs Julie de Hart-Beddoe, representing the Ambassador of France and Captain Philippe Petitdidier. The Honourable Darren Chester, Minister for Veterans and Defence Personnel. Mr Andrew Bridgman, Secretary of Defence New Zealand, and the Italian Embassy delegation. We are also honoured to welcome attending members of Federal Parliament and the many representatives of veteran and serving organisations and associations who are joining us this evening. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that continue to serve, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and by students on behalf of the following schools. From New South Wales, Glendale East Primary School, and from Tasmania, Princes Street Primary School, Sandy Bay. Australia's Federation Guard is the tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. It will now dismount the catafalque party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Boys and girls and those requiring a seat, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection in the following order. His Excellency General the Honourable David Hurley, the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, and Her Excellency Mrs. Linda Hurley. Senator the Honourable Linda Reynolds, Minister for Defence, representing the Prime Minister of Australia, and the Honourable Shane Newman, Shadow Minister for Veterans Affairs and Defence Personnel, representing the Leader of the Opposition. Mrs. Julie de Hart-Bedeau, Charge d'Affaires, representing the Ambassador of France, and Captain Philippe Petitier, Defence Attaché. Chester, Minister for Veterans and Defence Personnel. Mr. Philip Thompson, Member for Herbert. Mrs. Meg Green, National President, War Widows Guild of Australia. Mrs. Rhonda Van Zeller, Chair of the Honouring Women and Families United by Defence Service Committee, and Mrs. Jan McLeod. Mr. Paul Lane, Chairman Legacy Foundation, with Ms. Gina Pirelli and Ms. Jessica Taylor. Mrs. Liz Cosson, Secretary of the Department of Veteran Affairs, Australia, and Mr. Andrew Bridgman, Secretary of Defence, New Zealand. Representing the Chairman of the Council of the Australian War Memorial, and Dr. Brendan Melton, Director of the Australian War Memorial. Mr. Tom Mabry, Chief of US Support Team to the Australian Geospatial Intelligence Organisation. Mr. Ray James, Acting President, RSL New South Wales, and Mrs. Pauline James, President, RSL State Auxiliary. Lieutenant Colonel Joanne Eichen, Director, Defence Force Nursing. Wreaths will now be laid by current serving and veteran women of the Australian Defence Force and visitors to the memorial.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Matron Jean Nellie Miles Walker. Jean Walker was born on the 16th of November 1878 in Hamilton, Tasmania, the youngest daughter of Alfred and Louisa Miles Walker. After being privately educated, Jean Walker attended the collegiate school in Hobart and then trained at Hobart General Hospital. She remained on as a staff nurse and then sister until 1908, when she entered private nursing. In 1913, she completed training in obstetrical nursing at the Women's Hospital in Melbourne. She then served as matron of private hospitals at Tallangatta, Victoria, and Darlinghurst, Sydney. In 1906, Walker joined the Australian Army Nursing Service Reserve. Within 3 years, she was the principal matron of the Military District of Tasmania. Following the beginning of the First World War, on the 20th of October, Walker embarked on the troop ship Euripides, one of 25 nurses sailing for Egypt with the Australian Imperial Force. After several weeks in Alexandria, she joined the 2nd Australian General Hospital in Cairo. As wounded arrived from Gallipoli, she took charge of the hospital while the matron was working at another location. In September 1915, Sister Walker worked in the British hospital ship Gascon, which carried patients from Anzac Cove, Cape Helles, Murdros and Salonika to Malta, Gibraltar, England and Egypt. Her next role was matron of the first Australian stationary hospital at Ismailia, Egypt, which treated wounded from the Battle of Romani. In October 1916, Walker was promoted to matron and transferred to the 3rd Australian Auxiliary Hospital at Dartford, England. In July 1917, she became matron of the 5th British Stationary Hospital at Dieppe in France, and in September 1917, she became matron of the 3rd Australian General Hospital at Abbeville. In late March 1918, the German army had launched their last major attack of the war, which would later be known as the Spring Offensive, a series of attacks planned to drive the Allies back along the length of the Western Front. As the Allies retreated towards Amiens in April, Matron Walker's hospital was used as a casualty clearing station. 24 nurses cared for around 1,800 patients as bombs fell in the area. With the German failure to capture Amiens, the tide turned in the Allies' favour. By October, Matron Walker was in London, attached to the 2nd Australian Auxiliary Hospital and preparing to face a new enemy, the 1918 influenza pandemic. Most wartime censors minimised early reports of illness and mortality, but with papers free to report the epidemic's effects in neutral Spain, the country appeared to be particularly hard hit, and so the pandemic earned the nickname Spanish flu. Around 500 million people were infected worldwide, resulting in the deaths of 50 to 100 million. Matron Jean Walker was working in the first group clearing hospital at Sutton Veny when she fell ill. She died not long afterwards on the 30th of October. She was 39 years old. Jean Walker was buried with full military honours on the 11th of November 1918, the day of the signing of the armistice that ended fighting. During her career, she had been mentioned in dispatches and awarded the Royal Red Cross First Class in 1916. Her name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. Her photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Matron Jean Nellie Miles Walker, who gave her life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
If able, please stand for the reading of the oath and the sounding of the last post.
Party, shoulder up.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Party, present.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. we leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you all for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.